President Trump gets a terrific State of the Union speech. The Senate acquits him of all impeachment articles, and Democrats have themselves a disastrous Iowa caucus. My name is Sean Clinton, and this is the Guide to Freedom Show. Alrighty guys, I hope everyone has had a great week so far, and what a week it's been. This has been a crazy week, but it's also been a great week for President Trump. He has so many wins this week with the, being acquitted by the Senate, and then the State of the Union speech was just terrific, and then the whole Iowa caucus thing, which I'll get to all those in this episode, but yeah, let's just jump right into it. So, as conservatives just had a saying from the very beginning when President Trump was elected, and the saying basically goes, all Democrats had to do was not be insane. That's all they had to do. But of course, they just couldn't handle themselves. They decided to just go full on insane and just do whatever they can to get President Trump out of office. And any way possible, whether just over crummy, bad impeachment stuff or whatever, or just all kinds of stuff. First, of course, they tried the whole Russiagate thing. They decided, maybe we can prove that he colluded with the Russians to influence the 2016 election. But of course, at the end, that all went disaster for them. And then they decided again, about maybe a few months later, to do the whole Ukraine thing. But again, with the whole Ukraine thing, we know the theory is that President Trump did help back Ukraine for investigation reasons, but it was to investigate Ukraine over 2016 election influence, which is the legitimate concern. But of course, Democrats had to try and find any way to try to impeach him on that. And, they impeached him in the House, but of course, they would have in the Senate. So, of course, the whole impeachment gate tactic, gone. So then they decided, oh, maybe we can get the good candidates come in. Maybe we can have some great candidates to help us out. But of course, pretty much all the candidates in this race is just utter garbage. So, of course, that tactic, gone. Then they're counting on turnout for the 2020 election, and of course, that is a big kind of going theory that Democratic turnout is going to be huge 2020. But from what we saw from the Iowa caucus, turnout was horrible, absolutely horrible. And I'll get to more of that a little later when I actually talk about the Iowa caucus. Actually, I'm going to talk about that first. But yeah, the turnout in Iowa is just horrible. So they're tactic for Iowa, gone. All right. So yeah, they have gone completely bonkers at this point. It's just completely insane. But yeah, so yeah, let's just go right into it. Let's start with the Iowa caucus. So this Iowa caucus, I haven't never actually paid attention to an Iowa caucus before, but apparently a lot of people are saying this is the best Iowa caucus ever, because this is what happened. Because leading up to it, there was just all sorts of kind of hype around everybody and all that. The contender was that Bernie Sanders was going to win Iowa. That he had the biggest chance to do it, and yeah, like I said, the turnout for this whole thing was just awful for Democrats. So this should really worry them. But again, it is Iowa; it is a red state, so we haven't seen a kind of a purple or blue state turnout yet. But of course, there's going to be high turnout. The key is going to be like a purple state, like a swing district or whatever, swing state, like maybe Michigan, Pennsylvania, I believe, or Wisconsin. But if Democrat turnout is horrible in those states, they don't have a prayer in 2020, in the November But again, like, for a while it was said that, Joe Biden was going to be the one to take Iowa, but the turnout for his caucus was awful. Like, literally 6 people showed up. 6 people showed up for him, and he didn't have a prayer in Iowa, which is very surprising. Which, it just tells you something about Biden, that maybe the thing is, a lot of people were saying that if Biden were to be the nominee, that he would probably beat Trump. I used to think that too, or at least think he'd be competitive. But seeing his turnout right here is just, I don't see it. I don't see it really being maybe competitive just a little bit, but not as competitive as what I thought before. It's crazy. But here's a quick little video. This is from basically CNN's Jake Tapper going around in the Iowa caucus area or whatever, and he's talking to the Joe Biden supporters, all 6 of them, and it's pretty funny.
This does not look like 56 people. So the Biden group. So you look like lovely, wonderful people, but it doesn't look like you made the viability threshold.
Not yet.
Not. There's time. This year. I'm not trying to be funny, but no. But where? What are you going to do?
We're gonna stand strong with our first choice, and when other candidates are not viable, we know that Joe is a lot of people's second choice and will become viable in the second alignment. Absolutely.
So you think that people who, like for instance, the Yang people probably don't have 56.
They don't.
The Klobuchar people, I don't think they do. So you think there's still a possibility that they will come here?
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
Okay. So hope springs eternal.
No, man, you gotta love Jake Tapper sometimes. Like, he at least makes an attempt to be honest at some points. That's why I kind of like him. But yeah, it is possible that, say, a Yang's group or Klobuchar's group might go to Biden, maybe. But there was a poll that came out basically where it was split for Yang supporters, that whether or not they would support another candidate. It's pretty wild. But yeah, Biden honestly didn't have prayer in this Iowa caucus at all. Not a prayer. But the leaders were, I believe it was, of course, Bernie Sanders. Pete Buttigieg actually was competing in it, which was kind of surprising. Then Andrew Yang did pretty well. Then we got Elizabeth Warren was up there too. But then the contender was, the results were gonna all go to Bernie Sanders. That would look like. But then everything just collapsed around them. It was insane. Like, basically what they did for this Iowa caucus is that they had this app, this newly designed app, in order for people to vote online or something like that. But it crashed, and others things crashed and just didn't work out right. And then so basically there were no results that night. And even today, it is the Iowa caucus happened on Monday. It is now Friday, and there is some current results that Bernie Sanders is actually in the lead, but they're doing a recount right now I believe. So that's not the official results. So it's Friday. We still don't have the actual results for Iowa, and New Hampshire is coming up pretty soon too. So this is not looking good on Democrats right here. This whole Democratic race has just been up and down. It reminds me of General Hux a little bit from the sequel trilogy of Star Wars. But it started out interesting. He started pretty interesting, and then he turned to a clown. And then there was a little redemption to make it. Maybe he was turning even a little just more interesting, but then he was just killed right off the bat. This is what happened to the Democratic race right here. It's just this is just utter disaster for them. But it was hilarious. And what's even more hilarious is that several Democrats decided, they're going to claim victory. Elizabeth Warren basically claimed victory over this. Joe Biden basically claimed victory, even though he didn't have a prayer. He was even on the list up top candidates there. Bernie Sanders was claim victory, although he's probably will claim victory maybe if the Democrats don't try to like screw the election results to keep him from being nominee. But Pete Buttigieg also did. Like this is crazy here. Like here's what Pete Buttigieg says about that night. He was actually the first one to say anything about this, but here's what he said. What a night. Because tonight, an improbable hope became an undeniable reality. Okay, I mean, how does one know the results if the results are not even out yet? But of course, I mean, he just, like, all, besides what Democrats did this, it's all crazy, but it is just so hilarious that this happened. So freaking hilarious. But, I mean, honestly, they deserve it. Because, like, just the way they run this race, I mean, it was inevitable for something like just kind of collapse on them. I mean, not talking about like the whole Iowa caucus collapse thing, but just something that just collapsed the Democrat Party. But it's pretty hilarious. And again, the current results going on right now is that Bernie Sanders is in the lead for it. He actually, is 100% of the votes are currently in Bernie Sanders is in the lead, but they're talking about doing a recount because Pete Buttigieg and Bernie Sanders were pretty close, so they're doing a recount. And yeah, I mean, I'm kind of thinking that this happened in a way to stop Bernie Sanders becoming the nominee, because like they're definitely afraid of Bernie Sanders. I mean, I get it in some ways because he is a full-blown communist, pretty much. But, I mean, honestly, the Democratic Party is moving more toward that area, so they should just own it at this point. But, I mean, if they cheat him again and, like, keep him from being the nominee, there is a strong theory out there that the Bernie Sanders supporters will not show up for the other Democratic candidates because they'll be so ticked off, like, okay, once again, the establishment took out our candidate, or we're not going to show up. Just screw y'all. And so even if Biden is a nominee, I mean, Trump will still clear victory in November. But of course, some people blaming Russia or Trump for it, even though there's no evidence for this. Obviously, this is all on Democrats for running a system that has not been tested yet. And then, so, Democrats have been saying for years that they want online voting. So why can't Republicans are being bigoted because they can't do, they don't want to do online voting? How'd that work out for y'all? I mean, seriously, it seemed like that didn't work out too well for y'all. So why would there be a national online voting registration thing? It would not work out at all. Alrighty, so let's get on to Impeachment Gate 2020. This is the final time we'll be talking about Impeachment Gate. Freaking finally. I mean, think about this. We started this thing back in October, I believe. Actually, was it late September, early October, where this whole Impeachment Gate started? Goodness, it's been a ride, but finally it's over because the Senate has officially acquitted President Trump, which was expected from the very beginning. Like, this is not surprising in the least. So, the voting results were basically for Article 1, it was 52 to 48. Yeah, 52-48. Basically, all Democrats voted to convict him, and pretty much all Republicans voted to acquit him. For Article 1, Mitt Romney, in fact, voted to convict him. I'll get to that just a little bit. But for Article 2, all Republicans, including Romney, voted to acquit, and then all Democrats voted to convict. And, of course, with the Republicans having the majority in the Senate, that didn't. So obviously, he was acquitted. And yeah, I mean, the rest There's history from there. I mean, it was obviously going to happen. We all knew that was going to happen. So, I mean, again, it's just not surprising in the least. Not in the least. So, like I said before, one Republican did vote to convict Trump on one article, and that was Mitt Romney. And he's been kind of he hasn't been always a fan of President Trump from the very beginning, and so that's why he gave his opinion on why he would convict Trump. I disagree. I think he's completely wrong about the whole thing, but that is his opinion on the whole thing. And the whole contention about, Mitt Romney is now a traitor to President Trump. He should be, he's a Democrat now. And then there's some Republicans saying he should be booted out of the Senate from all Senate, hearings or whatever. Which, okay, come on. Guys, I mean, this was his opinion. Is not a traitor to the Republic or anything. Was there the wrong decision? Yes. Does that make him an evil Democrat or anything like that? No, he's not a Democrat. Anyway, he's more of a moderate Republican, but he's nowhere near a Democrat. He just doesn't particularly like Trump personally, but he does vote with Trump on 95% of issues. So, I mean, that argument just doesn't make no sense. So, I mean, the attack on Romney from the right has just been irritating. In my opinion, just including from President Trump's attack on him. Seriously, all you have to do is just declare victory, you're acquitted, that's it. And that's all you have to do. But the White House, for some reason, continues to go after Romney for this whole thing. It's just stupid. But what's even more irritating right here is the fact that, Democrats are now declaring him a hero, the media is declaring him a hero and all that. Go screw yourselves, because you're the same people who were calling him a Nazi, said that he wants to put people back in chains, and had dogs on his roof or whatever. You're the same people who said those things about him in 2012. So save me this whole stranger respect thing. No, you guys still hate him as much as you did in 2012, but since he's going against Trump, so then you want to support him. So, Democrats can go screw themselves over this. They have no room to talk about Romney at all, considering the things they said about him and everything. But, yeah, it's just, of course, the Republicans' reaction to this whole thing is just, of course, they're all super excited, as they should be. Is it kind of a victory for Trump? Who knows? Kind of weird to say, yes, he wasn't impeached. That's a victory. But it is a victory. Democrats have been trying, again, for 3 years at this point, to try to get him out of office by any means necessary. But they ultimately failed miserably. So, Republicans and President Trump deserve a victory lap around this thing. And President Trump gave a terrific speech yesterday about this thing. And he was, cussing and everything. It's very Trumpian of him. That's all I gotta say, but well deserved, honestly, just considering all the crap that's been thrown at him. But the Democrats' reaction to this whole thing, it's been the same. They're saying that Republicans are committing cover-up and everything. That this is not the last time they'll be trying to impeach him. So in other words, probably once the 2020 election passes by, and if he wins re-election, they're going to try to impeach him once again. Which is why it is important to win back the Senate and the House, or mainly just the Senate, honestly. And that's probably more important than anything. But I'll get to more. I will continue on to get to more of the Democrats reacting to the acquittal. But first, you're going to have to go over to YouTube to get the rest of this. So not only do we get the rest of the whole impeachment gate, you also get to talk about the State of the Union speech. Also, at the end, talk about scripture. in John chapter 7, finish up John chapter 7 today, and you also get some stuff get stuff best stuff of the week, which is basically the stuff I like and dislike of the week. But again, you can find me on your favorite podcast listening sites such as goodness gracious, I cannot talk today. Remember, you can find me on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and all that good stuff. Otherwise, I'll see you all next week. This is the God and Freedom Show. Alrighty, so let's continue on with the Democrats' reaction to impeachment acquittal. So the House managers, who kind of started this whole impeachment thing, or ran the impeachment gate, which is basically Adam Schiff, Jerry Nadler, Zoe Lofgren, and all of them. So they have an op-ed in the Washington Post about it. What in the world is this? I think something popped up on my screen, or whatever. But the op-ed is titled "House Managers: Trump Won't Be Vindicated. The Senate Won't Be Either." Ooh. Anyways, here's what it says. Over the past 2 weeks, we have argued with the impeachment case against President Trump, presenting overwhelming evidence that he solicited foreign interference to cheat in the next election and jeopardize our national security by withholding hundreds of millions of dollars in security assistance to pressure Ukraine to do his political bidding. Again, there was no evidence that actually happened at all. Literally no evidence. And the House was responsible for getting that evidence. They said they have all the evidence. But what's funny that when they got to the Senate, they told us that you guys need to investigate and get these evidence in order to tweet so we can make a decision. But I swear that you guys said that no, we had all the evidence. Of course, they didn't have all the evidence. They had no evidence of criminal or impeachable stuff, none. But here it continues right here. When the president got caught and his scheme was exposed, he tried to cover up and obstruct Congress's investigation in an unprecedented fashion. As the trial progressed, a growing number of Republican senators acknowledged that the House had approved the president's serious misconduct. So why didn't, if that was the case, why didn't any of them vote to convict? Except for Romney on one of those. But of course, this Democrats' way of saying it was bipartisan because one Republican voted on one article. But of course, it's nowhere near bipartisan. But and how the whole accepting of Congress thing is just absolutely stupid. Yes, I guess they tried to subpoena some witnesses, but Trump used instead of executive privilege, which he has every right to do. That's not against the law or impeachable in any way. So what they could have done is gone to the courts with it, but they decided to not go to the courts. So that's on them. That's completely on them. Throughout the trial, new and incriminating evidence against the president came to light almost daily, and there can be no doubt that it will continue to emerge in books, in newspapers, or in congressional hearings. Most important, reports of former National Security Advisor John Bolton's forthcoming book only further confirm the president illegally withheld military aid until Cave announced the sham investigations that the president sought out for his political benefit. And by the way, what Bolton described is nothing really illegal. All he said was that President Trump withheld aid from Ukraine for possible links to investigations, but that's too broad to be even considered illegal. Anything. But again, the case right now, the actual theory strong theory, and it's more likely what happened was that he did it to investigate 2016 election interference from Ukraine, and it happened to involve Joe Biden or Hunter Biden and all of them. So, I mean, there's no evidence that he did this for the 2020 election, and there's no really motive that he had. There's no evidence that he had a motive to do this for the cheat in the 2020 election. This is the most irritating thing, that Democrats are going to say that since they didn't convict him, he's going to cheat in the 2020 election. Like, the November hasn't even happened yet, but they're already saying that he's going to cheat, which honestly is going to look bad on them more than anything. I mean, if they want to continue down this road saying that he would definitely cheat in November, go right ahead. Go right ahead. And I'm sure they'll cry about it when he wins the re-election, saying, "Oh, he cheated. He cheated. That's why he won." It's funny that any election that Republicans won, it has to be because they cheated. Because there's no way that people want Republicans in office. Like, there's no way possible. They always want Democrats in office. They like Democrats. Every American likes Democrats. So, but the only reason why Republicans win is because they cheated. It's just utter nonsense. And again, it's just gonna look bad on them right here. I mean, the Democrats, they just gone downhill this week. They just had themselves a rough week. They could pretty much collapse on themselves. It's been fun to watch, honestly. And then, of course, President Trump has just had himself a great week. Actually, just last night, White House announced that another terrorist leader for Al Qaeda, he was taken out by an airstrike, which is another victory in President Trump's belt. So another kind of good thing that happened to President Trump was the State of the Union, and that State of the Union speech was probably the best speech he's ever given. I mean, it was just so good. The first 20 to 30 minutes, he talked about the economy and everything, and this is a good tactic because he was saying, we have a very strong economy. Unemployment is as low as ever been, which is all completely true. But of course, Democrats didn't want to acknowledge this, and then they decided to sit for every bit of it, pretty much. But probably the best parts of of it all was his, the way he kind of members in the audience that he gives recognizes or thanks for their service or whatever, or something like that. And that's always the coolest part. But the two coolest parts what happened during the State of the Union was when he awarded the Medal of Freedom to Rush Limbaugh. And this is when Rush Limbaugh is currently was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer, which is just awful. Prayers go out to him and his family during this. But Rush Limbaugh has just been around for a long time. He's pretty much the father of conservative commentary. Honestly, if he didn't do a show where went into conservative commentary, most shows, my show or anybody else's conservative show today wouldn't exist. He's pretty much started this conservative political commentary that's grown without the years, and just look how it's grown today. But President Trump again gave him the Medal of Freedom. It was just an awesome thing to see. But here's the video of it.
Almost every American family knows the pain when a loved one is diagnosed with a serious illness. Here tonight is a special man, beloved by millions of Americans, who just received a stage 4 advanced cancer diagnosis. This is not good news, but what is good news is that he is the greatest fighter and winner that you will ever meet. Rush Limbaugh, thank you for your decades of tireless devotion to our country. And Rush, in recognition of all that you have done for our nation, the millions of people a day that you speak to and that you inspire, and all of the incredible work that you have done for charity, I am proud to announce tonight that you will be receiving our country's highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. I will now ask the First Lady of the United States to present you with the honor, please.
That is just awesome right there. That's just completely awesome. Like, Russia deserves it. Again, like, Rush Limbaugh, like, just inspired so many, like, conservatives to, like, pursue this conservative commentary that he was the father of it. Like, it's just so cool to see. Right there. Now, this was Trump at his best right here. Like, if he was like this, like, 100% of the time, right here, like, he would win 55% of the vote, at least. But yeah, but the best, probably one of the best parts of this whole thing is, like, of course, without a doubt, the whole military family reunion thing. Like, that's always awesome to see when military families always reunited. It's just so cool to see. It's very cool that President Trump did this right here. But here's the video of it.
War places a heavy burden on our nation's extraordinary military families, especially spouses like Amy Williams from Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and her two children, 6-year-old Eliana and 3-year-old Rowan. Amy works full-time and volunteers countless hours helping other military families. For the past 7 months, she has done it all while her husband, Sergeant First Class Townsend Williams, is in Afghanistan on his 4th deployment in the Middle East. Amy's kids haven't seen their father's face in many months. Amy, your family's sacrifice makes it possible for all of our families to live in safety and in peace, and we want to thank you. Thank you, Amy. But Amy, there is one more thing. Tonight we have a very special surprise. I am thrilled to inform you that your husband is back from deployment. He is here with us tonight, and we couldn't keep him waiting any longer.
That's just so awesome. I just love military reunion videos. I always have. Yeah. But one of the most annoying parts of the State of the Union was, of course, the Democrats sitting, but it's more still Nancy Pelosi just being just a nasty, bitter person during this whole thing, because she knows that she's losing this whole impeachment thing and all that. But like this, of course, with the two videos, like the first video, like she didn't even stand right here. She didn't even like stand for Rush Limbaugh. And this one, like, she of course stood, but I mean she actually sat down towards the end, or she sat down toward the end right there. It just, and it's like throughout the speech, like she was like mouthing something or something like that, but here's like kind of the worst thing that she did during the State of the Union is that she actually ripped the copy of the State of the Union speech that President Trump gave her. Well, she literally ripped it, and like here's a video of it. We're doing that.
Family knows the pain when a loved one is diagnosed with a serious illness. Here tonight is a special man.
Okay, you can see right there that she is sort of rips it, like very, very lightly, just to see, I guess, test her strength or whatever. It's kind of funny to watch her do that, but it's very disrespectful. Very, very disrespectful. And like, here's where she actually... just very, like, very gross stuff from her right there, but of course it is Nancy Pelosi. Like her comment after this, basically like she was asked why she did that. I'm sorry, I can't talk today, but she was asked like why she did that. And she said basically, well, it was the best thing to do concerning an alternative. What was she gonna do? Like wipe her butt with it? Was that the alternative or something? It just doesn't make sense. Like, it just shows you just how better all the Democrats are, because they know President Trump is winning at a lot of things, and that he's done a lot of great things for this country, and they just don't want to admit it. That's why most of them like sat down or left during his speech and everything. It just all gross. But of course, the media's reaction after this was as gross as it usually is. Like here's like a statement from, I believe is NBC. Yeah, from MSNBC talking about Rush Limbaugh getting the Medal of Freedom. It's pretty bad.
We have a lot to get into right now with Columbia University professor and New Yorker writer Jelani Cobb. Good to see you, sir.
Hey, how are you?
I want to tackle a few things with you, going big picture as we sometimes do. Mm-hmm. You watch this State of the Union. Mm-hmm. The president arrives with Republican senators saying he did it. Mm-hmm. Today, he, of course, got this vote where he was acquitted by them. And there was thunderous and repeated Republican applause. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't help but think of Star Wars, of Queen Amidala. Mm-hmm. This is how liberty dies,
right?
To thunderous applause.
Right. Sure. And I mean, I think there's a kind of stagecraft element of this, which is that this was a reality TV kind of production. And so there are two tracks of this. If you're thinking about just the entertainment value of it, like the people who are tuned in, who are supporters of his, then there's everything that's going to send them through the roof. If you're a person who's actually thinking about democracy, then you're probably cringing and under the couch by the end of that speech, because it was the kind of mainstreaming of his most demagogic personality traits. It is a affirmation. The Senate vote is one thing. You can just say that you, on principle, which is a difficult case to make, I don't believe it, but you could say on principle that you believe that this is wrong, but it doesn't rise to the level of a removal of a conviction. But the real statement about how they feel about Donald Trump's behavior was the reaction that you saw when he entered that room. That it was tribal, it was completely affirming. It was completely a kind of almost like a wedding ceremony between him and the modern version of the Republican Party.
Well, and what you're saying goes to something you've also written about, which is bearing witness to the facts is important, whether there is power behind it or not, or whether that is still being contested.
Right.
And this is not normal. I want to take one point from this and show everyone. Let's look at some of the past winners of the Medal of Freedom from presidents in both parties. You look at these, you have Mother Teresa, Jackie Robinson, Bill Gates, John Lewis, Maya Angelou, Stephen Hawking, these kind of individuals. Now under Donald Trump, as of last night, you have added to this list Rush Limbaugh. Does he belong anywhere near that group?
I mean, just look at the group. The person who integrated baseball, the person who is globally the most recognized advocate for impoverished people, a civil rights hero, a icon of poetry and literature, Stephen Hawking, who is a person who's triumphant not only in his intellect, but in his ability to wield the intellect despite the debilitating disease that he had fought for decades. And then we have the person who said that the NFL was like Crips and Bloods without weapons. The person who compared Barack Obama to a monkey. The person who said that Donovan McNabb was only in the NFL because they wanted to have a black quarterback succeed. And the kind of lineage of things that can go down, the misogynistic things that, are in his history.
So striking.
Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.
I've come to expect this from the media, but that was just comparing Republicans cheering President Trump as he walk in and applauding his achievements, comparing that to what Padme said in episode 3. We just said, the Republicans falling, Emperor Palpatine is taking over. And she said, it's how liberty dies by thunderous applause. Compared to those two, that doesn't make sense. It's just, but again, this is what I've come to expect us from the media, so it's not surprising in the least. But here's kind of a more hilarious thing right here, is that the Obama speech writers were so offended by this. And here's an article from Newsweek about this whole thing, and it's titled, "I'm in mourning. Obama speechwriters react to Trump's State of the Union address." A former Barack Obama speechwriter has said that he is in mourning over President Donald Trump's State of the Union address, calling it fact sheet that was bereft of facts. Okay, in mourning, give me a break. Give me a freaking break. And pretty much all the things he said was true. I'm including about the economy, unemployment, and everything. That was all completely true. And what he said about the Democrats going after they want to get rid of private insurance and everything, that's completely true too. And it continues right here. Cody Keenan, who wrote Obama's State of the Union addresses while he was president, told MSNBC's 11th Hour Trump address, in which he listed his achievements while in office, was actually a really good case for his predecessor's economic actions. So this is the most annoying thing right here for Democrats. Whenever there's an economic downfall, it's always the current Republicans, Trump's fault or whatever. But whenever there's been achievement like this, that's all Obama's achievement. And it's just really annoying. But this is just all pretty much saying President Trump is a liar. And then this speech was just awful and evil in every way. How could anyone say that stuff in the speech? Again, everything he said was pretty much everything he said, of course, the economy and everything was all completely true. So, I don't know what else that he wants from it, but whatever. Again, I just come to expect this from the media and everything. But in the end, this is all going to bite Democrats in the butt. Again, they have collapsed themselves this week, and then President Trump is just he is as high as approval rating as he ever been. He's at 49% approval rating right now, which is the highest he's ever gotten since 2016. Which tells you something, he can actually run away in a landslide with this election. Hopefully he does, but it's months out. November is months out, so a lot of things can change. But again, if I have to put it right now, President Trump will easily win, and I think the Senate and the House will be won by the Republicans too. We shall see. November is coming, but it's a long ways away. Alrighty, so let's get into some scripture. We'll be finishing up John chapter 7 today. Oh my goodness. And we'll be doing, it'll be the verse 37, 53, which is basically the end of it. Yeah. Alright, and again, you can follow me along if you want, and I'll be the New Living Translation. On the last day, the climax of the festival, Jesus stood and shouted to the crowds, "Anyone who is thirsty may come to me. Anyone who believes in me may come and drink. For the scriptures declare, rivers of living water will flow from his heart." When he said living water, he was speaking of the Spirit, who would be given to everyone believing in him, but the Spirit had not yet been given, because Jesus had not yet entered into his glory. Alright, sorry about that, but I lost my spot. There we go. He continues right here. When the crowds heard him say this, some of them declared, "Surely this man is the prophet we've been expecting." Others said that he is the Messiah. Still others said, "But he can't be. Will the Messiah come from Galilee? For the scriptures clearly state that Messiah will be born of the royal line of David in Bethlehem, the village where King David was born." So the crowd was divided about him. Some even wanted him arrested, but no one laid a hand on him. Which I guess, of course, they didn't know that Jesus was, of course, born in Bethlehem. But I guess some didn't know that. But anyways, when the temple guards returned without having arrested Jesus, the leading priests and Pharisees demanded, "Why didn't you bring him in? We have never heard anyone speak like this." The guards responded. "Have you been led astray too?" The Pharisees mocked. "Is there a single one of us, rulers or Pharisees, who believes in him? This foolish crowd follows him, but they are ignorant of the law. God's curse is on them." And Nicodemus, the leader who had met with Jesus earlier, spoke up. "Is it legal to convict a man before he is given a hearing?" he asked. They replied, "Are you from Galilee too? Search the scriptures and see for yourself. No prophet ever comes from Galilee." Then the meeting broke up and everyone went home. So Nicodemus right here, it's pretty cool to see his story right there. Remember back in chapter 3, he basically met with Jesus and talked with Jesus at night, and so it's pretty cool to see him kind of stick up for Jesus right here, and it shows the changes of his heart. And he was of course at Jesus' kind of funeral, and performed the usual kind of Jewish ritual for funerals and all that, I believe. But it's really cool. And yeah, I mean, it's really funny to see kind of how the Pharisees viewed kind of their viewpoint back then. Nobody good can ever come from Galilee, because Galilee was kind of the slums of Israel in a way. But it's all hilarious. They're going contention that "Are you from Galilee too?" It's just very hilarious. But the whole like kind of living water aspect of it is like all like it kind of relates back to chapter 4, I believe, where the woman in the well, and basically, I look at it like this. Basically, Jesus is, or water is a good example. Basically, you have 2 cups of like water here. One cup just kind of is regular water. You keep drinking, but of course that will. But you have to keep filling up because you keep getting thirsty and thirsty. So you have to keep wasting water, fill it up, drink it. You become thirsty again, fill it up, drink it, and all that. But you have the water right here. Is that when you drink this water, you never become thirsty again because it just ultimately fulfills you throughout your body and nourishes your body. The water does. This is what Jesus does. He there are several things that you can try to find success, money, fame, whatever, to kind of fulfill your life, but that's only all very temporary fulfillment. Actually, it's really not fulfillment at all. But that's all very temporary. But with Jesus, like he's completely eternal. Like once you receive His grace and follow Him, that's you're ultimately fulfilled. That you really need nothing else. So that's just one of the amazing aspects about Jesus right there. Like no other religion has this. So that's what makes Christianity such a unique religion in every way. Alrighty, so let's get into some good stuff and bad stuff of the week. Alright, so some good stuff of the week. This is really cool. This little announcement is all for the MCU. Is that Sam Raimi, who was the director of the whole, Evil Dead trilogy, which is all very goofy and funny stuff, but also he was the director for the original Spider-Man trilogy with Tobey Maguire, which is always has been my favorite superhero movies and favorite Spider-Man movies overall. Tobey Maguire is my favorite Spider-Man because that's what I grew up on. But he's returning to direct Doctor Strange 2, which is really cool. See, but what's even more cool right here is that Doctor Strange 2 is called the Multiverse into Madness, I believe, or something along those lines. And the multiverse, for those who don't know what a multiverse is, that both DC and Marvel have this. Is basically, in the Marvel and DC thing, is that basically there's multiple different realities, different Earths. Basically, you have on Earth 1. For example, President Trump is president of the United States. But on Earth 2, for example, he could be just a farmer. That's how it kind of works. So, and both DC and Marvel have it. And so, with Sam Raimi coming back, there is a chance where they already kind of introduced the multiverse into the MCU. So, there could be a small chance that Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man could come play into this and into the MCU, maybe help Tom Holland's Spider-Man, which would be really cool. I really want to see that, and Marvel should do that. They have every they can pull it off. DC pulled it off perfectly. Remember back in the whole Crisis of Infinite Earths on CW. It was originally always said that both the DCEU and the Ezra Miller, Henry Cavill movies, those always disconnected from the CW shows. But as saw on the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover, Ezra Miller's Flash and the CW Flash, basically on the same screen, they kind of met each other, which is really cool to see. So if DC can pull it off, Marvel could definitely pull it off, and that'd be really cool to see. Alright, let's get into some bad stuff of the week. Alright, so some bad stuff of the week. The coronavirus continues to spread horribly throughout China. Last I checked, I don't think there has been any other confirmed cases in the U.S. I think just 6 cases so far for coronavirus, but it's continuing to spread throughout China. It's getting awful over there, and the Chinese government has been just completely quiet, and they've just been awful. The Chinese government is always awful, and it just tells you they're being off on this. They just don't care about their citizens and trying to get them healthy at all, because they really haven't done a thing. They could quarantine people, but it's still continuing to spread. And one of the biggest aspects of this was that there was this doctor who was treating people with the coronavirus who was basically, I guess, leaking out certain things about what the Chinese government was doing, in contrast to what they were saying, and basically the Chinese government to punish him, and somehow he had the coronavirus too, was diagnosed with the coronavirus, and he died from it. So yeah, something fishy is going on with the Chinese government over there. Well, we just don't know, but all I gotta say, Chinese government cannot be trusted. They can never be trusted with anything like this. Alrighty, so I think that's all I have for today. So, yeah, I'll be back here next week with whatever other craziness happens. We got, impeachment gate is gone now. State of the Union is done, so next week might probably be a slow week, but we'll see. I can't predict the future. Anything can happen at this point. But remember, you can find me on your favorite podcast listening sites, such as Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, and Spotify. And other than that, you can like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all next week. My name is Sean Clinton, and this is the God and Freedom Show. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, you can find me on your favorite podcast listening sites, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SoundCloud. Thank you for listening.